Bobby Manning here, and welcome to a special edition of Watch the Breakdown with CLNS Media and the Garden Report. And we're talking ahead of Celtics Magic tonight. By the time you hear this, the Celtics and Magic will have already played, and we'll likely have seen some more Aaron Nesmith, who you all listened to come on the Garden Report on Monday, talk about his rookie season, his New Balance deal. Definitely go check that out. In this edition, we're going to talk all about Nesmith, who more and more looks like he could become a contributor into this playoff rotation with just 7 games left to go for the Celtics. We're going to dive into his rookie season that was. Not going to be an all-rookie guy, not going to be even one of the better scorers of this draft so far, but late in this season, he has made the case to become one of the more important contributors of all the rookies in this class. Why? Because he plays the wing. Celtics need some floor spacing, shooting, and secondary playmaking at that spot with the ability to defend. What stuck out to some people out of that first game against Philadelphia was that he didn't play in the first half. Well, when we look back on that, in my first story of the season, Aaron Nesmith not a sure bet for the Celtics rotation early. I think what you'll see here is a quote from Brad Stevens that shocked everybody at the time. Nesmith hadn't played 5-on-5 since January until his first practice. That's when he broke his foot playing at Vanderbilt that year. Everybody's asking if he's going to be in the rotation or not, and he was just trying to get up and down the court. Another quote, "I don't know about making an impact. I think time will tell because this is a different level when you have to get out there and do it with these guys on a daily basis." So what made him say that? First thing we see from Aaron Nesmith this season in that Philadelphia series. Simmons quick catch, goes around him on the corner there. Tobias Harris quick catch, turns the corner. And Nesmith in both cases playing too high. So he ends up behind with on-ball defense. Now, Nesmith's a guy with 6'10 wingspan, projected to have some defensive impact coming in this year, but early in these games, unable to defend and position himself on that end of the floor, and unable to hit shots early in his career with the team here. Again here, communication defensively, going to be the problem for him. Transition break, him and Brown need to protect that backside, weak side in this case, left side of the floor. Brown finds Valanciunas. Nesmith finds the trailing shooter here that Daniel Tice is actually going to have to come back and defend here the way the Celtics play transition defense. Who gets lost? Brandon Clark. At the very least, Nesmith has to communicate there and that someone's going to catch him. Now, Robert Williams does that in this case here. This is later in the season when we actually see Nesmith begin to make an impact. Look at Nesmith here. Driver coming in transition. He's completely blind trying to pick up a guy baseline here. You see Robert Williams come into this frame, and I got the selfie set up here, so it's not 100% clear. But Robert Williams is pointing. When I first saw this, I thought, is Robert Williams trying to extend his arm and test out whether he can block the shot from behind? That's what it looked like at first. But if you notice, Nesmith's right in this guy's way and is not ready to contest the shot when the Hornets are coming full speed in the transition trying to score a bucket here. You see Jaylen Brown pointing as well. I think he's pointing out the baseline guy. Robert Williams is pointing out his man coming in here with a full head of steam, and that shows you in this previous play that Daniel Tice was going to be the one with the coverage on the guy Nesmith was obviously guarding here. So what happens here? Nesmith gets his man. No one's defending the rim. So Rob Williams has to turn on the Jets, and as Scal says here, give the ball a spanking. Pritchard earned the trust early on. We remember early this season Peyton Pritchard was playing. So this said something to me about Aaron Nesmith.
Part of that, Mark, is simplifying their roles. And, I think we're going to have to do that, especially early on. There were a couple times I called, a defensive coverage or an offensive play, and they looked at me sideways. They didn't know what I was saying. So, we'll have to work on all that and try to get them, a basic set of things that we can play with when they're in.
And why was it looking that way for him? I think in our interview with him the other day, we saw that there was just a lot going on in his head, trying to catch up with the playbook defensively, trying to find where he fits offensively in terms of positioning, movement, and how he can contribute offensively. Everything he was getting early on this year, as you see here, weak side jumpers, catch and shoot opportunities where defenders were able to close out fast. You did not see this here as much. Taco Fall, garbage time against Orlando, high screen action, Nesmith off the move. And he's talked about this in an interview with the Celtics recently. He wants to plant that first foot, use the second foot to square himself up, and give himself a little bit of time if he's going to be in a catch and shoot open opportunity here, as Taco Fall provides. I asked him about that play in particular with Taco there. Can you expect the Celtics to get you a little help, run those plays? And those are the plays we saw from him at Vanderbilt, ultimately. Rhythm, catch and shoot, activity, movement threes. We almost thought that he was going to play a Duncan Robinson-style role on this team. And you look at the Heat charts and movement when Duncan Robinson's on the court for the Heat, he'll be running football routes trying to get to an open spot on the floor and get himself a rhythm catch and shoot three opportunity rather than just a flat-footed standing in the corner one. But Nesmith wasn't able to get those early on. You saw 2 to 5 threes determining whether he was going to have a good game or a bad game. And so this is ultimately what surprised me as we get into some of his early big rebounding games, including 6 here against the Cavaliers. Impact rebounding. You see the footwork along the baseline, able to get the Celtics some second chance opportunities here. This is the earliest signifier that we were going to be able to see some big time rebounding from Nesmith early this year. And we'll get to a quote from A. Sherrod Blakely's piece in just a minute that we mentioned to Nesmith in the piece. But here's the first season Nesmith played at Vanderbilt, if you go look, if we're looking for signs of this being a possibility from his college days. I look at this one early. Non-conference play, Savannah State, still 13 rebounds for a 6'6" guy, 2 on the offensive glass. Pretty much offensive rebounds every single game from him, and 5 at Georgia in an 8-rebound game. 7 rebounds against UNC Asheville, 9 against Florida, 7 against Alabama, 14 against Auburn. He had some big-time rebounding games in his first season at Vanderbilt, where obviously he wasn't that knockdown lethal shooter. He only shot 33% from 3 his first year at Vanderbilt. What did he make it up with? 5.5 rebounds a game, close to what he's averaging this year in the NBA, where he's done up and down from that 3-point line. You see this look here that Carson Edwards gets him out in transition. Cavaliers make a quick rotation, put some heat on him. So Nesmith actually has to get this off faster than we've seen in some of the other shots here that he's missed early this season. Let's get right back to that catch, because he immediately becomes square here as the ball comes floating in. But he sees the defender. See the eye line here? Defender's coming. We gotta get this off. He fires away, drains it. Another play here. Can Nesmith put the ball on the floor though? Play make. That was his idol's Chris Middleton, and that was going to become another big question for his NBA potential. Could he put the ball on the floor and even make some plays here? To see this early in the season from him was highly encouraging, especially in an important early fourth quarter situation. So we get to this New Orleans game, and this New Orleans game was such a pivotal moment because this is when Brad Stevens looks at how Aaron Nesmith is playing, finding other ways to contribute despite his shooting slump, and says this guy with some injuries going on, Jason Tatum at the time coming back from COVID struggling, and other guys in the lineup, could Nesmith at this time become a closing player for the Celtics? This game encouraged Brad Stevens enough to say yes. Put back there, pick and roll action with Robert Williams, gets into the lane with enough balance to hit a shot off glass here. Here, these were the plays where Nesmith was having the most trouble defensively if we go back to his preseason film against Philadelphia and Brooklyn, setting himself on the closeout. Look at this. He's practically falling over himself, and this exuberance, this energy, this play style that made Cedric Maxwell comment and call him Crash on these broadcasts throughout the season. He's out of control at times. It's incredible energy and impresses Brad Stevens and everybody involved. But does he set the right example when it comes to closing out on shooters. There he does. He gets a good stop there. But what were some of the downsides as Brad Stevens after the game? I'll show you the quote here and I'll prove it. From Brian Robb, Mass Live. Aaron's energy makes a huge difference, and I think it's really helped us, Stevens said. I think we've got to get to the point where he can be in a closing lineup potentially until we're back full, just because it gives us more space, more ability to spread the floor, more ability to play when teams really attack our best players, play in that space and get open looks. Well, look at Aaron Nesmith's game log, 2 of his most impactful games in terms of minutes early in the year, with that New Orleans overtime loss on the road, and then the Dallas loss that followed. But there were some troubling signs in here too that ultimately made us the end of what looked like at that time consistent minutes for Nesmith period this season. Let's jump ahead. This 3-point contest, not as good. Gets off his feet. Good free throw, a good 3-point shooter in Melly, not a great one. And ends up drilling the shooter here. Here, 4 Mavericks, 1 Celtic, go get it. Nesmith gets up there, tracks the ball, recovers it. His ability to track down rebounds has been wildly impressive this year. And for a 6'6" guy, as we said, playing a guard role a lot of the time, to be out there grabbing 5-6 rebounds at times in a game, outstanding. But game moving a little fast for him, and we'll talk to him about this in just a second. Goes right into the lane, trying to do too much, turns it over. And here's the game. Quick switch. Jaylen Brown ends up off Luka. Kemba immediately identifies what Luka's trying to do. Nesmith, meanwhile, trying to plant his foot in that lane and prevent the drive here. Tie game, you think that Dallas might go for 2 in the win. Nope. Luka separating, going back to that left side of the floor that he loves so much. And Kemba, look at how he darts off his man here. He knows what this guy's trying to do. We've seen it too many times from Luka Doncic. He's trying to go with a flair for the dramatic and end this game. Nesmith's on him. He elevates from the 3-point line. Luka's about 4 or 5 steps behind it. Look who ends up with the closer contest here ultimately. It's Kemba Walker. Gets out there, darts out to the line, and this is how the Celtics are taught to defend 3-point shots and why they've been so successful in the past. Go to the side, get right up in the body, but don't land in that airspace where you're going to get called for a foul. Kemba Walker actually ends up doing an outstanding job contesting this look, but the point man who had to do it was Aaron Nesmith. And there's the game.
I mean, yeah, like a whole bunch of ups and downs, and your mind's everywhere sometimes. But you can't focus on that too much. Like I said, you got to make sure you live in the moment, be in the moment. So
that was Nesmith talking about where his head was at early this season through that stretch where he was struggling to shoot, struggling to defend, pretty much at that point struggling to stay on the floor, because after that game, Brad Stevens essentially pulled him out of the rotation and he was done. And we thought maybe he might never come back this year because of how much he has to work on and how much was flying at him early on this level. You saw his willingness to put it all on the line to try to stay involved. But he ends up taking a seat on the bench over the next couple of weeks, thinking about what he can provide this team, channeling his energy, watching film, seeing how other guys carry themselves on off the floor. And I thought this was a great answer from his interview about whether or not he thought he needed more minutes early in the year to try to work through some of the things that he was going through back then.
I mean, I think you can look at it from both perspectives. From a playing standpoint, obviously nothing's better than actually being in the game and getting reps up and, being able to run around with those guys. But from a mindset standpoint, I think it really helped me, take a step back and look at the game in a different view and really help my preparation and every day.
This is when his season starts to turn around against Brooklyn, when the Celtics were just searching for something against a team that was giving them fits early offensively in the first half. He gets a chance here with some of the bench guys and contests a good shot in transition. And then tries to yam on Joe Harris. Unsuccessful. But a willingness to get involved, put his body on the line, and just hustle. What do we see here? An improvement with positioning. It's tough to space over here with Ojeleye in the way. Fortunately, Ojeleye makes a movement toward the basket and challenges the middle of what's a 2-3 zone here for the Nets. pulls in Harris a bit. These two guys get caught here for a moment trying to communicate. Tatum already making the eye contact with Nesmith, and this is going to be key, developing chemistry with the ball handlers on this team, finding the spot they want you to be in. Tatum's looking right here, and Nesmith finds a spot, finishes quick against the rotation in the zone, and hits a good shot here. More hustle plays. Verticality around the rim has been so impressive with Nesmith to me. The ability to get up on these offensive boards and almost play like a big at times with these putbacks. Here, this play would have been a challenge for him early in the season. This is where we start to see Nesmith's season turn around, both in that Brooklyn game and here against Charlotte, where he really starts to reestablish himself as a defensive player. Good switch, handles the drop with Washington, plays a halfway point here as the Hornets start to get some downhill roll action going. Backline cutter, ball handler in the middle of the defense. Nesmith cuts off the passing lane and then blocks the shooter. And a great eye for the ball. And here, this is where I'm most impressed with him in recent weeks. Able to assert himself against a catch and shoot threat here in Martin and stay in front of him so that he's not caught off his feet when Martin tries to go into the drive here. Nesmith really establishes his footwork on the three-point line and does this numerous times, as we'll see here through the film, and stays with this guy all the way to the rim. It's wildly impressive. And so, what do we see? Nesmith starts to become an impact player, but can they get his shot going? That was going to be my biggest question here. Because as we see, R.A. Sherrod Blakely talked to a scout and said, that scout said, a rival Eastern Conference scout said, I guess we kind of bleeped this one up. No, seriously, I'm happy for him because it seems like he found a role with those guys now. It's not the role we thought it'd be or the role the Celtics thought it'd be, but give him credit. He's figured out a way to get on the floor, which is huge for a rookie. So what's it going to mean? Probably not a ton toward the postseason. Brad Stevens has said twice in the last 2 weeks that they have an idea of what they're going to look like in terms of rotations when they're healthy. And I don't think he's seen enough of Aaron Nesmith yet to be assured that Nesmith's going to be part of that. There might be some other guys in and out on a matchup basis. But if he can make himself the shooting threat that he has been these last few weeks, 58% from three over his last few games, he's going to have to be involved. So what's the difference between Nesmith as a shooting threat and as a non-threat? I think it's a lot of times the quality of the looks being thrown at him. Completely off balance here. Running out backwards to the three-point line. I mean, you got to be Ray Allen to make a play like this in the NBA Finals. Exact kind of play here. No real rhythm. Rushes it and misses. Over here, though, great rhythm. And even though he's got a little bit of time here, gets right into his release and drills it from the corner. I just see him more comfortable time and time again when he has to get into that shot quickly and hit it. And let's take a look. The numbers bear that out. Aaron Nesmith's shooting this season. Catch and shoot, he's up to 40. Pull-up shooting, 23%. Not doing it a lot of the time, though. I don't think we have enough sample size there yet to see if he can be a pull-up shooter around screens and stuff like that. But what I see when it comes to coverage, tight coverage, he is now 50% from three. Not getting it too often, but even open, plays like that last one we just watched where he's open but Wanamaker's coming in, 47% from three. The wide open plays, and he's getting quite a bit of these, 28%. I find it interesting that when he has time and space to think about what he's trying to get off there, he's struggling immensely from the three-point line. And some of this film bears it out. Right here. The play I love, and we're going to watch this over and over again. Why can't the Celtics get this for Nesmith more often? Why can't there be plays like this to emphasize a guy's strength? That's one of the Brad Stevens second guesses I have this year. This is just a great opportunity for him to have rhythm, be comfortable, and even though there is time to think about it here, he's in a motion that he loves. Squaring up the both feet after catching off one foot, running along the three-point line here and having the space thanks to Tristan Thompson's screen to get it off wide open. I love plays like this. And then to add some misdirection, some indecisiveness at the defense, they run the same play again minutes later. And look at what Nesmith does. all the room in the world to shoot here, but he sees the center coming up high, and Jakob Poeltl, a guy that they can abuse at the rim here, struggles to defend that pick and roll action at times. Fakes it on DeRozan and gets him up on the air, attacks the rim, and scores through Poeltl. That was my favorite play that we've seen from Nesmith all year. And then, not long after, we saw him do something even more impressive. More screen action, two-man game with Thompson here, with Brown, Tatum, and Smart on the court, no less. Misdirection completely takes the Spurs defender out of the play. Again, he gets a wide-open look at Jakob Poeltl here in no man's land and goes right into a two-point jumper. I love that play so much. Can we get more of this activity for Aaron Nesmith, who's a guy out of Vanderbilt who thrived on that kind of activity playing for Jerry Stackhouse? Don't just make this guy a kick and pop shooter. That's why he struggled so much early this season. They were getting plays like this. Rob Williams this time. Great screen, catch and shoot above the arc in action. I love it. So I read the quote about Nesmith's role to him in our interview. Fun reaction, and we just talk about him continuing to put his body on the line. He's adamant that even though he's doing that, he's not putting himself in a position to be hurt. He's asserted multiple times this year that he knows exactly what he needs to do to not get injured despite exerting all this energy. And I love the quote here, the art of falling. Awesome quote from this interview.
Actually, I feel great.
You're all right?
Great, yeah.
Because people are worried about you every night. I'm not kidding. They're like, is Aaron okay?
No, I call it an art of falling. You got to know how to fall. But yeah, it was just, like I said, being able to take a step back and look at the game, recognizing what the team needs, and just going out there and trying to do that to the best of my ability. A lot of teams need a guy who does the little things. It's not the most glamorous things, it's not always going to show up in the stat sheet, but every team needs it.
And there it is. Against the Spurs, the hustle plays won them the game. Put back, that intense pose we saw from him at Vanderbilt after that play. Staying with these guys off the dribble. It's completely changed his defense. And the offensive rebounding. So impactful. This was the most important bucket of overtime, the go-ahead bucket after they initially tied the game. And there you have it with Aaron Nesmith. So what do I want to see out of this? Him be the guy off the bench that they lean on, that they trust through some ups and downs here, especially in this final course of the season, and invest in. It's not going to be a straight shot for him. Clearly, this is a guy that's going to need a little bit of development, but fortunately on the other end, there's some potential there beyond just being a role need specialist at this time. He's got rebounding ability. He's got the ability to make some decisions off the catch and off the dribble when they get him good looks through some activity here. And the impact defense that we imagine he might be able to display at this level. I'm going to go as far, after watching him these last couple of days, to say that this guy could be an impact starter and part of the Celtics core going forward. And what's that mean? They ultimately got two young players in Peyton Pritchard and Aaron Nesmith that are worth developing and investing in going forward to be contributors alongside Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown in the future. And as a guy who would have considered trading Aaron Nesmith for Harrison Barnes at that trade deadline, consider this my apology, Cam. Because looking back on it now, I want to see what Aaron Nesmith has in the future more than what Harrison Barnes would have provided this team right now. So there it is. Bobby Manning, watch the breakdown. Aaron Nesmith, Boston Celtics. We'll catch you next time here on Watch the Breakdown, and you can catch this regularly over on my YouTube channel, Bobby Manning, and tune into the Garden Report, the Celtics postgame show, after every single Celtics game here on CLNS Media.